Abdullahi Alas is the executive director of Elitecrew Consulting Limited. He's been our guest here many times, but he hasn't been here this year.
Yeah, it was for 3 months now.
Hey, it's been 3 months.
Yes.
Hey. Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year, Sasa. Every year is Happy New Year. You know, some things give me Happy New Year, we do Valentine. What happens on 15th? Love will end?
No. You commemorate the day. When it's Christmas, you commemorate, but
these things must be done. You see, who defined these things? The problem I have with some of these things, we should be blessed that we are allowed to live another year.
Yes.
Yeah, the language might be different.
So we say Happy New Year.
But no, I don't say Happy New Year. I don't.
What do you say?
We say blessed that we are still alive.
So like when
so now do the greeting now. It's a new year. Do the
yeah, I say good morning and I'm happy to be here and all of us are alive.
Okay.
Happy New Year, or either way, you can only talk when you're alive. Dead don't talk from the graves. So we are happy that all of us are alive.
So we are happy that all of us are alive in this new year.
In this new year.
Okay. Hi. Happy to be alive this new year, Abdullahi Alas.
I've been asking this Valentine thing.
You don't worry.
Like,
how's Mandera? Last
Mandera
we spoke was
on
phone. And what was happening there was heavy flooding.
Mandera exposed the poor preparation of emergencies in terms of the government. Because 60 years after independence, lorries and vehicles heading to northern Kenya were stuck between Habaswein and Madogashe for 1 month.
1 month.
1 month. So food became expensive. It just shows that our country is not well prepared for disasters or emergencies. Like I was listening to you guys when I was coming, you're talking about the fire. So we will respond. Currently, things have opened up. They've made some maram, but I know if it rains, it will go to square one. Because there is no long-term thinking of fixing these things because of the nature of our politics and how to implement policies. But people are surviving. Things are tough because diesel in Mandera is 230 shillings.
Diesel?
Yeah.
It's available though?
Yes, it is.
But it's cost 230.
Yeah, for those that from Nairobi, those from Somalia and Ethiopia is cheaper. So if the black market. So if you, but the problem is you can't know what is in those things. So
adulteration.
So I normally just fuel from one petrol station, and that is 230. So sometimes you only use the car between 12 and 2. If you need anything else, you just walk. Because it's too expensive.
We'll continue with this conversation shortly. But first, City is going to give you the day's proverb. This week, the proverbs are from?
Namibia. But this is in memory of a man who has shown himself to be a great friend of this country. The late president of Namibia, President Hage Geingob, who passed away yesterday. So it is in his memory that we have the proverbs for this week, and they're from the country of Namibia.
Okay.
Yes. A hunter in pursuit of an elephant does not stop to throw stones at birds.
A hunter in pursuit of an elephant does not stop to throw stones at birds. Abdullahi, what's your interpretation of this one?
The elephant is a very big animal. The bird is a very small animal. So you can still throw stones at the birds because the elephant can either be very slow or decide not to care about your stones. So it can mean we can shout from the rooftops of KICC, but Kenya Kwanza will still remain Kenya Kwanza.
Oh God.
Did you want elephant? What was the purpose of shouting from the rooftop of KICC? To change Kenya Kwanza?
to say that you are not implementing what you told us on September at Kasarani. If you listen to the speech which I did last night again, I just laughed and I came to the studio.
This is at the inauguration, the swearing in. What are the things that were said that you have not seen?
He talked about the judiciary and how they stood to the powers of the evil who wanted to change the will of the country, and how he was going to support them. But today he does not want to follow court orders. Oxymoron in Kenyan politics. That, you see, when he was given the constitution and when he was given the sword, he was interested more on the sword than the constitution. Because the constitution was given to him first, before the sword. But Ruto decided to show us the sword and not the constitution. And you know, when you praise a man who did his job and he was paid handsomely by a Kenyan taxpayer called Chipukati, and then all of a sudden you're hearing he's going to be the next Chief Justice.
Well, I mean,
that's what is in the everything that is said in Kenya will end up to some truth later on in life, and we are here. So what I'm saying is, what defines a man is a character, because sometimes we might glorify power. We might think some people have more money than others, because everyone has money, but some people have more. But the moment you think because you have more, you're better than other people, and then you see someone who does not care about those things, then you find how poor you are. So this country has a president. In Somali we say you can't have milk on this side and water on this side and expect them not to mix. Double speak and you know, deception oriented you know, statements defines a man's character. What defines the president of this country is what he says and what he implements. Because I remember in the poster we have Kenya Kwanza policies vis-a-vis Kenyans. This country has the 5th president. He was elected by Kenyans. He was begging people for votes before election, literally mixing, eating maize around people. But in Kakamega, there's a young man who wanted, I think, to talk to him.
yeah.
He was mishandled. In fact, the president was saying, leave him. But the people around him, when he was even taken to the tent, he was taken behind the tent. That is a voter. That is an employer. That is the guy who employed Ruto, because with his votes. So it is Ruto who is supposed to listen to us, not us listening to him, because we give him the job. When he was the deputy president, you remember how we used to cry foul about the judiciary, how systems were used by Kenyatta. Where did Ruto get the strength to talk to Kenyans like what he did in Meru? Nyinyi nitawaambia Mungu ya Ruto ama Mungu yetu, because it seems that we don't have the same God. Because when you go to Bungoma and Kenyans shout at you as a president in a crowd of about 200, 300,000 people or more or close to, it shows Kenyans don't have jobs. That's why they're idle. Otherwise, how many people from standard building or citizen or parliament or judiciary were in that rally? Most people who were in that rally are people who don't have jobs, or if they do casual work. If he was a guy who is thinking about policy-wise, he will have asked himself, why are they so many? Every time you go to a place, why are people not working? Why are Kenyans not in the production sector? So, this country, as we discussed before, in this country, has a syndrome where political class, and then there was the MP from Nakuru, who was telling the guys who came to collect CDF forms, why are you here? Somebody, Darama or I don't know, Arama. You see, these are people who were begging for votes. They were going to houses. They were sitting with people under a shade.
Yeah.
They were eating maize in the streets. All of a sudden, because you became the president of the republic, there were 4 presidents before you, and there will be many after you. So there is nothing special being a president. There are many presidents in the world, around 190 something. The context is, when you're given the position of leadership and you want to change things, the employer, who is the citizen of this country, you cannot address them the way you want. Because when you go to Meru, wewe ndio uliwatafuta. So they will talk to you the way they want. They will tell you bye-bye, sujui, all the negative names we have in this country. But when you go to Kakamega, you're the one who've gone to their houses and their homes. Your home is in Nairobi, you come from Sugoi. But because you're the president, you went there. So when you go there, address people with respect. And if they don't want housing, if I am hungry and you want to give me a house and I'm asking you, boss, I can't even sleep in the streets of Nairobi. Don't worry about where I sleep. Give me what to eat.
So, Alas, are we saying essentially, because let's look at, certain things that have come out recently, whether it's the increment of taxes here and there, or whether it's looking at just the housing levy, or certain things that have come out. I think one of the most recent things we saw over the weekend was the circular that came from the Ministry of Education, where now that by all national schools, parents will now pay fees towards the one e-citizen
pay bill number. And
immediately everybody went crazy because they said absolutely not. This is a smokescreen for further corruption to take place. How can we be sure then that the money will reach schools for our children to eat in school and for our children to for us to make sure that certain things will happen in school? And there was instant uproar, right? And they said, no, this one definitely have to revisit. We're not going to be able to do that. Okay, put that aside. Prior to that, of course, we'd seen with the housing levy, there have been many groups who've come up and they've spoken and they've said, look, this is unacceptable because of 1, 2, 3. Whether it's the unions, whether it's civil society, whether it's corporate, private groups who've come out and have said, this cannot sail because of 1, 2, 3. And we see the manifestation of this because people then go to court. People petition to court and say, can this actually stop? Is what you're saying then that because we've seen obviously that there's a dissatisfaction amongst the citizenry, people are not just saying no for no's sake, but that there's reason behind why people are saying no. Are you saying that essentially a government, because we can't say that they're deaf, they hear, a government that is hearing what the people are saying over and over and over again, should then be able to re-look at its policy, whatever it is, and say, actually, you know what, guys? We should be able to make a shift here. We should change this because we are not actually satisfying our people. That doesn't mean that you go at a whim and that just because your people stand up tomorrow, you do what they say. But if you see this regular dissatisfaction amongst the people on things for which they can give you fact and reason, are you saying that the responsibility then of government is to actually say, let's take a step back and relook at our policy?
First of all, Kenyans as the employers of the executive, the payers of the MPs, the payers of judiciary, have the right to be angry because the money belongs to them. The tax that is collected is mainly paid by Kenyans, majority. And like the policy of the Ministry of Education, who do they consult? They have no right to do anything. Once they want to bring policy, they should start from the bottom and tell parents, you know why? The kids belong to us, the money belongs to us. These are people who are paid. So they cannot make, like, a shopkeeper trying to tell the shop owner, we are going to do A, B, C, D, and then the guy tells him, I did not ask you to do that. Please, let's first do what we agreed. This country belongs to more than 50 million Kenyans who must be consulted at all times on anything. If you refuse, we will go to court and then you start crying fool. What needs to happen is that when you bring in a policies that work very long time are bottom up because it will affect people. Now, before like the guys who are sitting in AC rooms that are paid by Kenyans, think they can do whatever they want. Now, Ministry of Education is already having issues. I told you access to education in many parts of the country is very, very limited. Access to health in most places is limited, because if you look at even housing, the people who own houses, and we say houses, we can say both modern and tradition, they're about 61% in this country according to National Standard Bureau of Standard. But the people who bought houses in this country are 3.5 million, which means more than 47 have either built or they're living in temporary houses. If you look at the numbers of passport holders, they are about 3.5 million Kenyans. So literally, the people who are traveling out of this country are zero, very, small percentage. If you look at the policies of, say, in taxes, we are paying like 4 or 5 taxes, different taxes. The problem with taxes is there is no a country that has ever developed because they're paying high taxes. People who develop further increase the base tax and feed people, and then people can now have activities and exchange and then thrive. Now, when you say, let me give you 2 examples that is happening to me. I can send this to Eric. One is the units, Kenya Power, electricity. In September 2022, 1,000 shillings was 62.74 units. Today, it's 31. Is that an improvement, or we have gone back? In fuel, like I told you, in Mandera, August 2022, 5,000 shillings was giving me 41 liters for my car. Today, it is giving me 20.4 liters. That is not progress. This idea of telling us we are paying debt. Kwani debt yetu haishi? This debt from Uhuru to next Uhuru to Ruto haishi. So the disconnect between people, the politicians, and the citizens is like the housing. You say you're building a house and you're using taxpayers' money. Then why are you going? Why if it's taxpayers' money, the land belongs to us because it's a community land. Kenya belongs to all of us. So if you've built it, let's say in Mandera or Wajir, which I don't see houses coming up, where will I live? You deduct money from me. Will I live in Turkana or Nyeri or where will I live? Because you're building 40 units, 50 units, that's not enough. What's the criteria of selecting these houses? The problem we have is the president is the one initiating projects. He is the one monitoring projects, and then he is the one also telling us the feedback. That is a very biased concept of research. When you implement a project, when you initiate a project, you bring an outsider. You're a researcher, CT. You bring an outsider who is not biased, who will give us the nitty-gritties of the project. Now, Kenyans have refused housing because the problem of Kenya is income. The problem of Kenya is affording life. The problem, he said he's going to build 250,000. Well, Uhuru, when he was with Uhuru built like 50,000. Some projects are not complete. If you go to around California, Starehe, Pangani, they're not finished. Why? Go back to Uhuru's time. When Uhuru came to power in 2013, 256 projects for Kibaki have been abandoned. When Ruto came to that, the cost of abandoned project in terms of pending bill is about 9 trillion. And that's, I'm quoting it from what was said in Parliament. Now, this is what happened. Worth 9 trillion stated during the Mwai Kibaki and Uhuru Kenyatta regime have stalled disclosure in Parliament show. This was, the other day. The Assembly Budget Committee disclosed projects include roads, office blocks, dams, irrigation projects were started in the breach of guidelines that require secure funding, raising concerns about the country's planning and public spending decisions. Now, like the Port of Lamu, It was started, I think, 1970 something, 1975, 74 there. Government works progressively, but some of the projects are continuing. That's why we plan. This government does this. The other government finishes what the previous government started because we're using so much money in them in terms of funding, and that's costing our budget. Now, everyone is saying, and then the problems, the projects that were launched, proved by Uhuru Kenyatta, are being relaunched by Gachagua and Ruto in central Kenya and in the part of, I have a list. Some of them were built in 2019, 400 million technical institutions that people were using for KCSE for the last 8 years. They are being relaunched. I love, in the slang language in the streets of Nairobi, tunasemanga hii watu wawache hii umama. You see? So, policies are supposed to be implemented based on research, based on need, very progressively. It's monitored midway, then we will always get what we want. But right now, the country, why is it that every Kenyan is shouting? If you go to the street of Nairobi, I was in Nairobi from Thursday, everyone is very angry.
Well, let's talk actually about that.
Yeah.
Why are people angry, as you say? What is it that people are saying? And are they responding to exactly what's happening, or are they responding to something else, something different?
Well, on last week I attended a meeting, Kongamano la Mapinduzi, with Mwalimu, and I met Kenyans from all over. We've had guys from Kisumu, Bungoma, Baringo, all over the country, Kiambu, Murang'a. You see, a country, when we say government, there is government and then there is policy. The government comes before the policy because it's the one that works for the people on behalf, especially those politicians who are forming these policies with the help of the public. Kenyans are angry because we had a president who told us he's going to change a lot. Remember the Mama Mboga, the Boda Boda, all those sloganism. Now, you see, when you seduce a lady and then you marry her, life begins. Now, if your transformer is not working for the first month and the second month and third month, that lady wanted to have a functioning husband. If you are not worth in her life. And most probably she will leave you because she's not getting what she desired to have as a person. Because the essence of getting married is accompanying, satisfaction of our conjugal rights, having children for some, others don't, others may not have. So when you came as a member of parliament for several years, as a deputy president for 10 years, and then Kenyans, you told them all the slogans you could. Now the reality has kicked in. And when you're managing a country, from the appointment of the cabinet secretaries to the PSS, there was something amiss. Appointment of parastatos, Kenyans will begin to ask, what you were telling us yesterday and what you are trying to do, like if 70-60% of one community is occupying office, you cannot trust other communities with these positions. Yet yesterday you were with them begging for votes in everywhere in the country, sleeping in Mandera, going to Elwak, you were in Turkana. But today Turkana cannot be entrusted with some positions, especially if there is a lot of money. Now, when the prices of everything have gone up from when Uhuru was the president, then you are either lying to us or you're doing business with us. Let's talk about universal healthcare.
So just to answer the question, are they unhappy about the same thing?
Yes. The cost of living is one of them. I told you, the cost of living is high because it's even cheaper in Nairobi, about 217, but it's 230 in Mandera. So fuel. Food is the same. If you look at sugar, in Mandera is expensive. You see, for 12.5 kgs, it goes for around 1,300. For ugali, is about 2,000. So everything has gone by 50% up from the previous regime.
Okay.
That
so
You have been castigated.
Are they putting it on a regime issue? If the people in Mandera are looking at the cost of living and they're saying, all right, so the cost of living has gone up, are they saying that it has gone up because of Ruto, because of Kenya Kwanza, or are they placing it on something else?
No, you see,
universally.
Universally, there is nothing that has happened in the last 1 year that was not there in the last 2-3 years. Ukraine started a long time ago. Palestine issues is now 4 months, but it has been there for the last 75 years. Today, Argentina people are demonstrating. Europeans have blocked European Parliament with tractors and big machines. The Canadians have collected almost 390 online petition to remove the Prime Minister. So this is a global thing for all of us. But how we handle Kenya is not operating in a vacuum, yes. But you see, there was a regime that you were castigating, that you were part of it. Now you came, you have done some things before even you studied. And it's biting on us. Yet, we have not seen salaries of the member of president going down. We have not seen salaries of members of parliament going down. We have not seen salaries of everyone going down. So there's a certain clique of people who are enjoying life as Kenyans, and there are those who have employed them are suffering. So why they are making noise is those they have, I told you, there is the ability for people to hire people who will think for them or themselves, and then they discuss. Universal healthcare, you said, it's okay, it's a good thing. But how do you approach it is the problem. In 2020 or 2022, we have hired, universal healthcare nurses. Some were paid initially for the first 1 year, 10,000, 15,000. Then some were given contract of 3 years. It expired. Now they're given another 3 years. They are now in the 4th year. They don't have gratuity. They don't have much of access in terms of allowances. And I'm saying this because I talk to people. I get my information from people. I'm in the hospitals, I'm in the banks, I'm in the bar, I'm in the mosque, I'm in the church with friends and talking to everyone. So that as a person making sense of what's happening in the country, you feel, even though I feel it myself.
Yeah.
So universal healthcare's problem cannot be started by saying we are going to start from Ruto's dimension. No, it has to start from the village. How do you do that? You first research on how many dispensaries and health centers are there across the country. If they are there, how, like Kenya says, you should have a dispensary or health center every 4 kilometers. But that's not so in most parts. There is a dispensary in Guticha Ward in Mandera North that had 1 nurse for the last 30 years. And today it has still 1 nurse and 2 volunteers. Do you think the population of that place has not grown for the last 30 years?
So what are we saying here? And this, I think, goes back to my earlier question of, this is obvious that there's dissatisfaction in Kenya today. I think it goes a little bit more than that. There's dissatisfaction. It is disappointment.
Kenyans are angry.
Yeah. So if you look at the graduated emotions that folks are feeling right now, and so we've gotten to the point where for a lot of people it's fever pitch, right? People are angry, and you know how you're in traffic sometimes, and as you inch closer to the junction, you're looking for the source of that traffic, right? And then you come out and say, what was causing this traffic in the first place? Where did it all come from? And I think that's the question that we're asking right now. As everybody is kind of feeling this thing and we're mushing and saying, what's the source of this problem? Is it that the cost of living is too high? Is it that there are more taxes being levied? Is it that there is a tone-deaf executive? What is it that is a problem? And the question is then, if we are going towards solutions, is it that the president and it's the executive ought to say, look, Kenyans are telling you something, let's change. And if they were to change, what would that be? The practicality of this conversation has to be very clear here, because we can be angry and people can be upset and maybe get over it at some point. But if it's going to go towards any kind of solution, where would we be going?
I'm sure most of you have heard about the king is naked. The story of the king is naked. I don't know whether you have heard City. There lived a king in a country, and he always used to dress beautifully or handsomely for every hour. Then 2 thugs came to him and told him, why are you dressing like this? We can make, we can weave fabric.
Emperor's new clothes.
Yeah, emperor's new clothes that the only intelligence people will see, but the fools will not see. Then we know what happened. Then a small boy said, but the king is naked. This country has a political class, especially this regime, that is doing business with Kenyans. Why? You can see from how angry they are. As a president, you're already paid. Why do you need to be angry? You don't need to be angry. You're already in State House. We are paying for everything, including your massage. Including people who polish your shoes. We literally pay for everything. All those cars belong to Kenyan public. You've seen when it was in Nakuru, around 40. We pay for those things. Why are you angry? What you need to do is tell your guys and tell them, look, whatever we are trying to propose, Kenyans wamekataa. What do we do? Even if it is 1 year, just bring back the subsidy. Even you see, most of these, when were they taken? Most of these debts, some of them were taken during Kibaki. Countries always pay debt. There is not, because it's a mechanism by the big brothers who manage us, the IMF, the World Bank. It's a way of mechanism of managing us, because we refused to get away from it. Sankara he died for it. So there is nothing new these guys are telling us. So let me give you the challenges of universal health care in this country, because I did some digging. They say universal health care has its challenges in Kenya, which are short of government budgetary resources, weak health systems, high poverty level. Reaching vulnerable people is a problem. Selecting the right packages of benefit, integration of the informal sector, and misuse of resources. Now you bring equipment where you don't have the experts, because it is money tenderpreneur intention. Universal healthcare or any project is not going to work in this country as long as Kenyans are poor. Because you want to treat people, and I said here, if they don't find enough food to eat, they eat the drugs. So if the health center in Mandera, in Guticha, has no clinical officer, it has no lab technician, which means those people have to travel for 10...
Does it have a lab?
It doesn't. Okay. You see, so, and most of the guys, because of insecurity, the lab technician were mainly from another part, they ran away. There is no replacement because the budget is limited. As long as the country and Ruto government is not consuming data from Kenya National Bureau of Standards to improve Kenyans, these roadside shows, when did it become a community issue to build a road? When did it become a community issue to build a hospital?
What do you mean?
Yes?
What do you mean?
You see, you're going to a place, you're saying we are going to build a road in this community for the Luyas. In Mandera, my daughter goes to a school called Josta. I've just taken her to school, PP1. The lady who owns that, Madam Deborah, is from Kisumu. Yet they have schools that are run by Somalis. I didn't care about it. I look for quality for my child. I don't care who runs it. And she's a Christian. The guy who is in charge of some of the department in Mandera Referral Hospital is from Kisii. This country belongs to 50 or 56 million Kenyans who do not know each other.
So what are you saying?
So what I'm saying is you're building a country for posterity. Forget about this region. Forget about this. If it's about region and one man, one shilling, Central produce 3 president. Gatundu has the highest jigas in this country. So the issue is policy trickling down to the village. It doesn't matter where Kikuyus live. It doesn't. Junet is from Mandera, but he's in Migori. He speaks Jaluo because this is one country. So the president must think and say, how do I develop? Because right now, the feature that is being built is not for Ruto.
Okay, so this is interesting.
The feature that's being built is for posterity.
He said on several occasions in the recent past, and we're talking about weeks here, that what you've just said is very interesting, because he said that actually, you know what, I'm doing exactly that. That what I'm doing right now, although it may seem painful in the interim, is actually for us to see a better tomorrow. Does it make sense that even though people cry today, you know, and I keep giving the analogy of antibiotics, that you feel worse before you feel better, but the medicine and in its administration is actually for you to get better later. This is, according to him, what he's doing. So the cries that you hear today, the frustration that you hear today, the anger that you hear today will dissipate at some point, and the sun will shine again. Do you believe it?
Hope is good, but you see, sometimes you can sell false hope amongst people. As long as the first principle in terms of good governance is observing the rule of law anywhere in the world. Because otherwise, when the president of the Republic of this country comes to a television and tell us the courts have stopped the, police going to Haiti. Yes, that's their work. Yeah, because you are surpassing your power. When did the National Security Committee have the powers to send people to go and die and come back in gaskets in Haiti? Does he know where Haiti is and what they do? When the president tells Kenyans he's going to build houses and they refuse, why are you forcing them? Why don't you listen to them? As long as the president has said he is not going to listen to the court orders, there is nothing we are going to listen from him. Because that is a mindset of a person who is committing impunity. You must respect the courts. I went to court, I told you. I appeared before Judge James Ritter. 9 times I won against the county government of Mandara. They said they are going to corrupt the judges. I didn't see. Because from the judgment, for 7-8 months, I was getting court orders against the county. When Ahmed Nasir comes to a television and say the judges are corrupt, I mean, there are avenues for those positions, for those issues to be addressed. There is Judicial Service Commission. If a person wrongs me, I go to the police. I don't take a gun and kill them. If I have Chatema, there was a judge who was removed in this country. Corruption is embedded in Kenya's governance system. In fact, if you ask some people, the president is doing business with housing because we have friends in government, very senior people. You talk to them, they tell you the president doesn't listen to anyone. And it's apparent he's not listening to anyone because he's forcing the house levy thing in our throat, even after court order.
This house levy thing is bothering you. Abdullahi.
Yes?
Hii kitu inasumbua.
Sikusumbua. Kama kotini imekataa. Why are you forcing it to us? And I'm telling you, I want food. Why are you forcing? I can sleep anywhere.
It's a valid question. But back to the question of anger. I was listening. Yes, it is most likely that Kenyans are angry for all the reasons you say. But is it also possible that Kenyans are angry with themselves?
To some extent, yes.
Because you feel you're taken for a ride. You believed, and now you are realizing that what you believed in isn't quite what you were told, and it's likely that it's not going to be what you thought it would be. And with every day, it's becoming clearer that this thing, the likelihood of it ever happening is getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer.
I think there's a term I use these days that is called educated fools. This country has people who think that amassing wealth like this. I was listening to one of the religious scholars in Islam, and he said, a man is born with nothing. He struggles to accumulate everything, and then he dies and leaves all those things. Like I've listened to Steve Jobs. You see, with all his money, the money could not treat cancer. And it's so with everyone in this country. Obsession with material stuff. What defines a man is character. Do you tell the truth? Yes. If Indu tells me today, I'm going somewhere, please deposit this 100,000 for me in the bank, how trustworthy am I? Indu is not a Muslim. And then she gives me money, 100,000. I'm claiming to be a Muslim. I go to the mosque, I pray. She tells me, bro, please deposit this for me in the bank. I go to the bank, I remove 2,000. And then I deposit 98,000.
That's commission.
Alafu naambia, unajua ndio, I took a taxi, alafu nilitumia, hiyo ni commission yangu.
Yes.
Seriously. So,
ni kutoa.
I normally use a very rough thing that about men who think they're very special. And Eric, I said, as long as every man is siring his own children, and no one is calling you to give us children, your sperm, you're not important.
No one is asking for your assistance.
No.
Yes.
And as long as you go to the toilet, whether you use water or you use tissue paper, you're the one cleaning your ass, then no one is cleaning for you, then how important are you? Kenyans are obsessed with big houses, big money, not life. And that is the problem we have as a country. You cannot satisfy an empty drum from two ends. A human being is an empty drum. How many years were you eating, as a human being? You will eat until you die. And you will eat something that is in a plate. So if you want to satisfy the things that it's not even meant to be satisfied, you're supposed to live a decent life, an honest life. You tell the truth. You are trustworthy. When you die, I remember you discussing about legacy when I was on the way. Legacy is not a project, as you said. Legacy is what you'll be remembered for, that you did for Kenyans. Like today, there are 5 presidents. Kibaki will always be number 1. Why? He did something. It doesn't mean that his regime wasn't corrupt. They were corrupt people.
In fact, probably one of the most corrupt we've ever seen.
But they were smart. At least they make sure they raised the cake, and then they started eating some, and then they gave Kenyans some. These ones, they are collecting everything. So we want to tell the president, please, as long as you're coming to television and telling us you're going to defy court orders, hakuna kitu tatuambia. Kenya can live without Ruto.
That's why you draw the line.
Yes.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.